Joe Gibbs Racing has always been one of the most respected teams in NASCAR, but controversy struck early in the season when Chase Briscoe received a massive penalty after the Daytona 500. NASCAR officials penalized the team for modifying a single-source supplied part, specifically the spoiler. This violation has led to severe consequences, including a 100-point deduction, a 10 playoff point penalty, and a $100,000 fine, as well as the suspension of crew chief James Small for 4 races. Briscoe had an impressive performance in the Daytona 500, starting on the pole and finishing 4th. However, after the penalty, his standing in the points dramatically shifted. He went from being 10th in the standings to 39th with negative 67 points. To put this in perspective, the maximum points a driver can earn in a single race is 60. This means Briscoe would need to have nearly 2 perfect weekends just to get back to 0. This is a massive setback for both Briscoe and Joe Gibbs Racing, especially so early in the season. The penalty also raises questions about the risks teams take to gain a competitive edge. In NASCAR, modifying single-source parts is strictly prohibited. These parts are supplied to ensure a level playing field among teams. If a team is caught altering them, NASCAR sees it as an attempt to cheat. The penalty handed to Briscoe's team sends a strong message that the governing body will not tolerate rule breaking. The incident is not the first time a major NASCAR team has been penalized for illegal modifications. Last season, Joey Logano's team was caught with a modified glove, though the consequences were not as severe. In Briscoe's case, the violation involved a key aerodynamic component, which is crucial at superspeedways like Daytona. A modified spoiler can provide an aerodynamic advantage, potentially increasing a car's speed and stability. This is likely why NASCAR came down so hard on Joe Gibbs Racing. For Chase Briscoe, the penalty is a tough pill to swallow. He was expected to have a breakout year with Joe Gibbs Racing, and starting the season with a significant points deficit puts him in a difficult position. Instead of focusing on competing for wins and a strong playoff position, he now has to fight just to get back into contention. The negative points means he'll likely need several top finishes just to catch up with the rest of the field. The penalty also highlights the pressure on James Small, Briscoe's crew chief. Small has been under scrutiny for some time, especially after struggling with Martin Truex Jr. over the past few seasons. Truex had gone winless in 2 of the last 3 years, which is unacceptable for a top-tier team like Joe Gibbs Racing. There were already murmurs about Small needing to step up his game or risk losing his position. The fact that his team took such a risky move in the very first race of the season suggests he's feeling the pressure. For Joe Gibbs Racing, this is not just about one race or one driver. The team has a reputation to uphold, and incidents like this can damage their credibility. In NASCAR, winning is important, but so is playing by the rules. A major penalty like this raises concerns about the team's decision-making and whether they're pushing the limits too far. The timing of this penalty is also significant. NASCAR has been making efforts to ensure fair competition by strictly enforcing the rules. Over the years, the sport has evolved, and officials have become more aggressive in penalizing teams that try to bend or break the rules. In the past, some teams may have gotten away with minor infractions, but that's no longer the case. NASCAR is making it clear that any attempt to gain an unfair advantage will result in severe consequences. Briscoe's penalty also affects the playoff picture. The loss of 10 playoff points is significant because those points can make a huge difference later in the season. Playoff points help drivers secure better positions in the championship battle, and losing them this early makes it even harder to recover. If Briscoe does manage to make the playoffs, he'll already be at a disadvantage compared to other drivers who have accumulated playoff points throughout the season. This situation also brings attention to the broader issue of rule enforcement in NASCAR. Some fans believe that NASCAR is too strict with its penalties, while others argue that these rules are necessary to maintain fairness. There's always a debate about how much freedom teams should have in modifying their cars. NASCAR's strict regulations are designed to prevent wealthier teams from gaining too much of an advantage over smaller teams, but some argue that it stifles innovation. For Briscoe, the road ahead will be difficult. He will have to perform exceptionally well in the coming races to make up for the lost points. His performance in the Daytona 500 showed that he has the speed and skill to compete at the highest level, but now he faces an uphill battle. Every race will be critical, and he can't afford any more mistakes or setbacks. The penalty also puts pressure on the rest of the Joe Gibbs Racing team. Other drivers and crew members will need to be extra cautious to ensure they don't make similar mistakes. A single penalty can have long-lasting effects on a team's season, and the last thing Joe Gibbs Racing wants is for this controversy to drag on. Despite the setback, Briscoe still has a chance to turn things around. The NASCAR season is long, and there are plenty of opportunities to regain lost ground. However, the margin for error is now much smaller. Every decision, every race strategy, and every pit stop will be even more crucial. If Briscoe can stay focused and avoid further penalties, he may still have a shot at a successful season. Briscoe is not the first driver to deal with this kind of setback. In 2022, both Brad Keselowski and Michael McDowell received 100-point penalties, and neither of them made the playoffs. In 2023, Briscoe himself was hit with the same penalty and missed the postseason. Now history is repeating itself. The question is, can he fight back this time? To understand just how much this penalty hurts, let's break down its numbers. Right now, Chase Elliott holds the 10th spot in the regular season standings. Briscoe is exactly 100 points behind him. That might not seem impossible to overcome, but in NASCAR, it's a huge mountain to climb. There are 25 races left in the regular season. If Briscoe wants to catch up without winning a race, he would need to outscore Elliott by an average of 4 points per race. That might sound doable, but it assumes Elliott doesn't gain any extra points, which is unlikely. It also doesn't factor in other drivers who could stay ahead of Briscoe in the standings. In the past, some drivers have missed the playoffs even while being in the top 5 or top 10 in points. This means just finishing races and collecting points isn't always enough. NASCAR's playoff system rewards winners first, so the best way for Briscoe to secure a spot is simple. He has to win a race. The penalty was handed down because Briscoe's team modified the spoiler on their car. NASCAR has strict rules about car parts, especially in the next-gen era where most parts come from a single source. This is to make sure all teams compete on an even playing field. Modifying a spoiler is considered a serious violation because it can give a car an aerodynamic advantage. The team took a big risk by making changes, and NASCAR responded with a heavy punishment. A 100-point penalty, combined with a 10-race suspension for the crew chief and a fine, sends a clear message. Breaking the rules comes with consequences. At this point, the math is simple. Briscoe needs to win a race. The good news is that he has 25 more chances to do it. The bad news is that winning in NASCAR is never easy. Briscoe has shown he has the talent. In 2022, he won at Phoenix, proving he can run at the front. He's also strong on road courses, which could be his best opportunity. But NASCAR is unpredictable. With so many different winners each year, securing a victory is tough. If Briscoe doesn't win, he'll need to be at least in the top 10 in regular season points to have any hope of making it based on points. Right now, that seems like a long shot. And that's all we have for today's episode. Don't forget to give this video a like, smash that subscribe button, and also ring that notification bell for more upcoming uploads.